Okay, I think it just takes a while to load. So we'll just wait for YouTube. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Zoe. Hi, dear. How are you doing? В мене, ну так. Я навіть не знаю, як сказати, як справа. Не дуже добре у вас. And how are you, Eddie? I wish everything was amazing. I mean, it's as good as it could be. It could have been worse. It could have been worse. So that's a good thing. But it also could have been better, I guess. So I think I'll just go immediately to the map of last night's strike. So to those of you who are on YouTube, you can probably see it already. If you're not on YouTube, please go to YouTube. We will also be doing some YouTube specific stuff today. So if you're interested in that, the link is in bio. And I'm currently showing to you the map of the last night's shellings. Hi, Carolyn. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Look at that. Look at that map. What do you think about it? It's just wow. Hi, Eminem. How's it going? We're ready. You didn't get a notification, even from YouTube? No. The audacity of that app. Thank you, Zoe. It is the same handle as my TikTok, the YouTube. Hi, Jim. Thank you. It can always be worse. That's very, very Slavic of you, Eddie. Thank you, Oshi. Thank you. Yeah. Already looking at the map. We're going to get into the map. We're going to get into the map and all the maps and all the articles in a couple of minutes. But yeah, you can already, if you're on YouTube, you can already look at it. You can absorb it. We will discuss it. Hi, Karen. Hi, Direwolf. Nice to see you guys. The YouTube crowd is growing slowly but steadily. Hopefully our president can get through Putin. I am not entirely sure about that. We'll have to see. Honestly, everything we've been seeing so far kind of raises questions, let's put it this way. But yeah, we have no other choice but to try and survive. Hi, Miss G. Hi, Resilient Crystals. Nobody's getting YouTube notifications. What do you mean? Thank you, Karina. That's so weird. It even sends my parents emails when they hit the bell. And you guys are not getting anything. Well, this is suspicious. That's weird. Okay, what else? What can we do about it? I mean, you can look for my Instagram stories because I always post like 30-40 minutes before I go live. Thank you. Or you can just, I guess, hope for the best. I'm so tired of all these platforms. They're just doing whatever they want. All right. Hi, hello, little B. And hi, Roshkin. You got this promoted to you, really? Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so and hi, Deborah. We have mixed responses. We have people who haven't received notifications. We had people who did. So, yeah, democracy at work, I guess. The differences of opinions and situations. Okay. Let me just see if there's anyone else. Oh, thank you, Michael. I've been working on this background for a very long time. I mean, if you mean my beautiful wall, this is years of collecting weird trash. Okay, no, I like it. It's not trash. It's a lot of unique art. So, the teacup for the day is the Japanese birds. Look at them. It's a very traditional pattern. The cup itself is not traditional at all. I think it was also from 300 yen store, but yeah. It's not really matching, but it gets the job done. So I'm also gonna pour myself some calming tea because I've been really, really stressed out. I mean, you can see why if you're looking at the screen. Cheers, you guys. We've had the worst combined missile and drone strikes night ever, apparently, and the main target was us. How special, how incredible. We're finally the main character of the story. Hi, Don, thank you. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, I'm being silly, nothing fun about that, but you can see that one of the main targets were all of these lines, the green, the blue, the yellow, even red ones, where they're all meeting. They're meeting in the city of Lutzk, which is the capital of Volyn region, Volynska Oblast, where I live. So, yeah, we had a very loud night. This is not the first time that Lutzk has been targeted in the last couple of weeks. Last month, there was another big strike on Lutzk, and everyone was kind of hoping that that would be it, but no, no rest for the wicked. The Russians came at us again, and I think why I like this type of map to illustrate the missile strike, the drone strikes. You can just see the overall madness of the situation, just how intense, how intense it is, how many of different things are flying from different directions, and how they're doing everything in their power to confuse and to overwhelm the air defense system. Those of you who do not know, we're also on YouTube. We're looking at the map of the missile and drone strikes on YouTube. It's the same handles, linked in bio, so you could come stop by, say hi. And yeah, it just shows how the drones are entering the Ukrainian airspace. Some of them, as you can see, going in from the south, for instance, from the occupied Ukrainian south, that is used as a springboard for the further invasion of Ukraine for the missile and drone strikes, and then also the occupied territories in the east, and then of course just the Russian regions that border us, and they're just flying in, and then they're going all the way up to their goals. So Lutzk was one of the main targets today, but it was also other cities as well. It's really unusual to see such a massive strike so deep in the western regions, right? It's not to sound cynical, but just observing the pattern, we've all been noticing, looking at everything that's been going on, that the main targets have been for a while the cities in the east, in the center. Kyiv is usually a big target for them. It serves several purposes. It delivers the message across, because bombarding the capital, the 2.6 million people city, it's nothing. Yeah, it definitely sends a message across. So Lutzk is usually not the number one target, but yeah, unfortunately it was. So just, I know the sheer number, the sheer volume of these attacks, they keep increasing. Just a couple of days ago, we were live and we were discussing how, we had the most intense strike in a while. And then after that, there was another that was even more intense. And today, I think it's a record-breaking one today in terms of the number of drones. Thankfully, not missiles, but the drones themselves, this is mostly the Shahed-type drones that they got from Iran, the Russians got from Iran. They're also doing enough damage by themselves. Okay. I'm glad that some of you guys were getting notifications. Ukraine's offense so advanced, even NATO studying their technology. Well, it makes total sense, right? It makes total sense because it's an active battlefield. It's an ever-changing battlefield. It's the war on a scale that has never been seen before. And although I understand that, NATO is technologically superior, it makes a lot of sense to study what's happening. You can improve the weapons, which have been actively tested here. You can learn the enemy, which I think by this point in time, the realization is settling in for a lot of NATO countries that, yes, Russia is very much the enemy. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think serves them this, training, learning sort of purpose. Okay, Karen also got YouTube notification. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me see what TikTok is saying. Hi, Carol. Good to see you. What do you think Putin wants from this? The full occupation of Ukraine, annihilation of Ukrainian state, and then further invasion into some of the other European countries, in particular into the Baltics, most likely. Let's see. What's the app you use to track drones? We have the alarm apps. I don't really use it to track drones. Hi, John. Thank you. I have the app that starts buzzing when there's stuff flying our way. For all of these maps, I use different sources. This particular one is from the Telegram channels. It's Monitor War. If you're on YouTube, you can see on the bottom it says what are the sources of this map. It's fairly recent. We haven't had such a map before. So, okay, one more look at the map to those of you who haven't memorized it yet. Yeah, this was the trajectory of the missiles and the drones targeting us last night. And also, let's see how many were there. Oh, 741, everybody. 740. Remember how a week ago, I think it was a week ago, we were discussing, 532. That's so many. Like 508. Wow, this is such an intense strike. 741. Different types of drones, different types of missiles. So, yeah, and although our official this is the spokes channel for our Air Force pretty much, they're saying that they have got most of them. Based on what we're seeing, it was still pretty destructive, that strike. So yeah, 780, 28 Shahed drones, that's the Iranian ones that Iran got for Russia years ago and that Russia's already now manufacturing by itself. And also, I think they mean by the drone imitators are the ones that are not actually Shaheds, but like the copies of Shaheds. There's a lot of them. They're meant to act like decoys, also to overwhelm the air defense system. Seven missiles of Iskander and Ha type, and also, we also had the daggers. This is why it was the daggers are the ones that are Iskanders, and the daggers are considered to be the ones of the hardest to intercept for the air defense system. So yeah, and this little exclamation point that you're seeing here says that the main direction of the strike was Volyn, the city of Lutzk, which is where we are. Not in Lutzk itself, but yeah, absolutely devastating. I don't think they've been posting much from Lutzk itself. You can of course see some of the imagery of the burned down buildings and like the police working at the scene, but it wasn't as detailed as you see from the regions that are getting hit more often, there is some sort of, I'd say, weird irony in that, how the nature, the approach to the strikes and these types of attacks changes depending on how often it happens to you. Like in Dnipro, in Odessa, there are journalists on the job immediately. Just there's something happening, everyone is out there taking pictures, there are people filming stuff, posting it to their Telegram channel, so like commenting and everything. And here, I imagine, a lot of people were probably hiding, and also like you just don't have the same, it's not as trivialized, you're not as used to this happening as people are unfortunately accustomed in the eastern central parts of the country, and in the south too, of course. So yeah, but also just FYI, it's a good thing when people do not film and post random missile strikes and random drone strikes, because this is just, we've been warned about a million times, don't do this. People still do this. Impossible. Okay, so let's, to those of you who do not remember, just in case, where Volyn is, this is where Volyn is. Thank you. This is where Lutzk is. It's the capital of Volyn. It's a very nice, very cozy city. I like it. I think it's okay. It's not anything special. It's no Tokyo, it's no Manhattan, but it's nice and cozy. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. It's this famous tower that it has. Some of the old stuff. Yeah, just that's pretty much the churches and the castle. It has this famous castle. Lutzk. So yeah, just a normal, cozy, nothing special Western Ukrainian city. Yeah, just to give you an idea, just to humanize all of these places that we just keep mentioning as, targets for the Russian bombings. Well, yeah, they're just, regular cities with people living there. Anyway, let me see what you got. Hi, Tim. Hello. Hi, Slavik. Hello, Slavik. Already discussing the strike. Tokyo and Manhattan are overrated. Yes, I know. Lutzk all the way. Lutzk all the way. There it is. It's right here. Okay, let me see if anyone is saying anything. Yes, the YouTube live is indeed posted on YouTube after we're done with it. Is your region still safe? I mean, yeah, it's I mean, safety-wise, it's still super safe considered to the, and by the way, hi Lors. It's still super safe compared to the rest of the country, but at the same time, recently you can tell that it's been intensifying, right? That something is clearly happening, something is shifting. And yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it very much when it happens, so... especially with everything that we have discussed before. Remember the Belarus situation, the everything, just all of this brewing, all of the talks about them striking into NATO, all of the talks about the potential offensives into here, all of the, and more NATO like troops and forces are being quietly, but they're being relocated to the eastern border. I think, was it Denmark that announced they will be sending F-35s, right, to patrol the NATO border somewhere, I think, in the eastern region. So it's just happening. It's unraveling, it's snowballing, and I don't, yeah, just the feeling is it's uneasy. It reminds me of the way we felt before the beginning of the full-scale invasion. So, but this is just me. I'm not a psychic. Didn't participate in the Battle of the Psychics, not season 1, not season, no season, so... but just the overall feeling is not good. Heroen Slava, hello. Hi, Alan. Hi, Peace. That's such a wonderful name. I wish we could have that. Wouldn't that be wonderful? You guys can't trust the creepy Belarus situation. The creepy Belarus situation is still creepy Belarusing, unfortunately, and it's going to continue while Lukashenko, the cockroach man, is sitting there, I'm afraid. So... yeah, one day he says this thing, he says this, then he says that. When I was preparing the Crimean deep dive that we're going to get into in about 5 minutes, everybody, we're going to do Crimea deep dive today. And I was reading his statements on Crimea that didn't make it into the dive, but I'm still going to mention them anyway. The amount of times when he said basically, yeah, we recognize Crimea as Russia, and then backtracked, was like, no, we don't actually. We believe in the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Or, wait a minute, actually, maybe we do believe that Crimea is Russian, or maybe... insufferable creature of the night. One more sad update that I wanted to talk about while we are on the topic of the strikes and all of this, the horror. So let's just get the horror out of the way and move on to something hopefully more optimistic. So we received more news from Kherson, the poor southern city of Kherson. There it is. The amount of times we looked at it, I don't know how many, and every single time is because of something awful. So today there was another human safari Russian FPV drone strike on civilians, and a 1-year-old boy was killed in that strike. So basically what happened was how they usually do it, the same pattern, the same scenario. They launched the drone on these civilians. It was a grandma, 64-year-old grandma, and her grandson. In a village in Kherson region. It was a village called Pravdine. And yeah, they attacked them at their own backyard from the drone. And unfortunately, yeah, the kid was killed, the baby was killed, and the grandma, she is wounded. She has some pretty serious injuries, concussion, some burns. So every single day, just like we talked about it before, every single day they're doing this to the civilian population of Kherson, and they genuinely think that they are entitled to it because they can get away with it, and it continues. It goes on and on and on and on. So, I know everybody. I know, nothing to say here, right? Hanna says, something is brewing here up in Scandinavia at the moment. So much activity, like military exercise. Can you feel it? Yeah, you can see it. It's actually... One good thing about everything is that it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be prepared. It's good that they're getting ready. It's good that they're exercising. I wish this is something we would do, before the Russian full-scale invasion. Of course, there wasn't much we could do, because then the Russians would have said, aha, they're preparing to attack us, which is something that they still said, even though we didn't do anything. But yeah, in this scenario, when the war's already happening and you have all of this aggressive rhetoric and you have all of these questions about how, what's going to happen with Taiwan, what's going to happen with, better to be safe than sorry. Okay, in a couple of moments, we're going to be getting into the Crimean deep dive, which is something that the people on Patreon voted for last week. And finally, I am delivering on. So if you would like to see that, it's going to be a presentation. Please come to YouTube. We already have 36 people. Hi. On YouTube. So if you want to see that, please come to YouTube, because otherwise you will not be able to see my exquisite presentation with a million words. So, yeah. What news sources can we still access in the US to get this info on things happening in Ukraine? In the way that I do this, I'm afraid you can't, because I analyze too many sources, but you can always check, for instance, the ones that I'm always referencing. There is this one called Ukrainska Pravda. Was this Mysh? I think this Achu was Mysh. Hi, Dave. And it has an English it has an English version of the website. It's pretty good. I think it's one of our leading newspapers. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing it open right now. It's called Ukrainska Pravda, or Ukrainian Truth. I think if you Google Ukrainian Truth, you will also be able to find it. So just, for some of the key updates, you can use that. But yeah, these days, for me personally, it's pretty much everything, all the information I could get my hands on. So, all right. Kyiv Independent too, by the way. Yes, I forgot about Kyiv Independent. Recently, there was a couple instances when they fell off, and I was like, I'm done with you. Friendship over with Kyiv Independent. Ukrainska Pravda is my best friend now. But no, it's still good. It's still good. You can still find some very decent coverage, despite some of the issues that they're having in their editorial. Okay, we're not going to get into that. So anyway, we have 39 people on YouTube, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And yes, please, you can head over to YouTube now to see my exquisite presentation on Crimea. Let me just see. Hopefully it will work. I hope it will. Let me just check. This is the first time we're doing this. I'm doing this in Canva. It already glitched on me 3 times. So if it's gonna glitch for the 4th time, I'm suing everyone. Let me see. I'm just gonna wait for a couple moments before I can see. Okay, I think it's working. Hopefully it will be fine. You have one last warning, everybody, for you to come to YouTube. Just a second. Hopla. Okay. One last warning, and we will be getting started. Let me try. I'm gonna try it in the full present mode. If it glitches, we will go back to the set. Hi, Von Clausen. Hello. We're doing the presentation on YouTube. Come to YouTube. So yeah, we're gonna try the big boy mode. If it doesn't work, we will go back to the sadder one. So look at this. Look at the beauty. All of the names. I collected all of the names of Crimea on this slide. So this is a deep dive that is going to be dedicated to the myth, the legend, the one and only Crimea, also known as Krim, also known as Kirim, also known as Gazaria. Surprisingly, I know. Also known as Tauria, Taurida. And yeah, it had a million names throughout the years. It has a very long history. And yes, this is something that my patrons have voted for on Patreon. So hopefully I will be able to deliver and answer some of the more often asked questions about the controversial peninsula and everything surrounding it. Slide. Why am I qualified to discuss it? I think most of you know why I am qualified to discuss it, because this is pretty much everything, thank you, I am talking about ever at any given moment of any given day. I was born and raised in Crimea. I survived Crimean high school and Crimean kindergarten, where they were feeding us sludge. So I also wrote an MA thesis about Crimea, because I just like digging into my own trauma, I guess. So yeah, I guess based on all of that, it just makes me more qualified to talk about Crimea than about 95% of the people who talk about Crimea on any given day. So, and yes, this is, if you're looking at the presentation right now, you're seeing a picture of me holding my useless degrees. So let's get into this. Recently, Oh, hi, Carol. Good to see you too. Hello. Oh, we have 51 people on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching my silly presentation. So recently it's been in the headlines a lot, which has been slightly confusing and a bit surprising for someone who is kind of used to Crimea being super irrelevant for most of my life, which has obviously changed since 2014. As we all know, something happened, someone annexed it, and ever since the beginning of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, it was getting louder and louder and louder. You can see all of these media outlets wondering, talking, being concerned why Crimea is so important to Ukraine-Russia peace talks, why Ukraine war could hinge on Crimea. Crimea is at the crux of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Here's why it's important. Everybody's an expert. This New York Times article, by the way, was pretty decent, but anyway. So everyone is an expert, and recently there's been a particular surge in the conversation surrounding Crimea because, you already know what he did. Donald Trump mentioned it several times, actually, and he mentioned it in the context of Crimea will always stay with Russia. This is how he put it. Which, it sounds pretty straightforward and something that perhaps you would expect from something like him. But it's also very funny in the most unpredictable way, because when I was writing my thesis, one of the things that I have discovered is that the Russians have spent so much time and effort trying to prevent this type of rhetoric exactly, trying to basically not talk about it at all. So their main strategy throughout the last, pretty much ever since 2014, was to pretty much not mention it at all, pretend like it's normal and hope that it will just normalize itself. So even statements like this could be harmful to them in a way, because they immediately raise questions of, hey, wait, what? Why shouldn't it stay with Russia? And also considering that it's Trump saying it, there's going to be a lot of people simultaneously being like, actually, if he's saying it, then I'm against it, then Crimea should definitely not stay with Russia. But that's just from the narrative point of view. So what is Crimea? What is that place of wonder and joy? It's a peninsula, it's first and foremost, and it's important here. So it's not an island. A lot of people think it's an island. It's not an island. And it only has one land connections, as peninsulas tend to do. They have usually very limited land connection, and Crimea's land connection is Ukraine. So it's a Ukrainian peninsula. It's important, by the way. It's going to come back in the future. It's a home to 2.4 million people, at least according to the recent Russian demographic polls. It has a very rich history, cultural diversity, eco-diversity, and it's also considered a tourist paradise. But it's also not as good as it seems, because it's been plagued by certain events. So this is a little chart of expectations versus reality when it comes to Crimea that I've made, which made me laugh. I don't know if it's gonna make you laugh. Okay, Zoe is telling me that full screen mode on my end might be cutting off the top side of what you guys are seeing. It's so, okay, it looks fine on my screen though. Maybe it's my, okay, let me just, should we do it like this? Should we, if we do it like this, is it better? Please let me know. Let me just look at the chat real quick. Okay, I'm seeing Zoe saying the same thing. Is it because of the, like, my face blocking parts of the screen? Okay, I should have thought about that. I didn't think about that. Okay, maybe we can just try it this way. But anyway, this is the representation of expectations versus reality. So yes, while it is indeed the place of glorious nature, you know, the dolphins, all of these incredible cultures, especially the indigenous cultures such as Crimean Tatar, it is also a place which has been occupied by Russia since 2014. It's been used as this military base of sorts. Okay, Carol says it was okay before. Okay, let's try it this way, and then maybe we'll switch. We'll see. We'll just mix and match. It is also a place of where certain people happen to be. Yes, they happen to have some particular views, especially as you can see the communist grandma, or also known as post-Soviet grandma, Soviet-type grandma, who likes the idea of the Soviet Union more than she likes her own children. The picture of the dead dolphin in the bottom left corner is because unfortunately recently dolphins have been dying actively in Crimea as a result of the continuous ongoing Russian military operations. So yeah, it's not as ideal as you would think. It's a bit more complicated and has been for a while, because not only is it all of these wonderful things, it's also a disputed territory, right? So what do we understand by that? It is legally, so by international law, it's Ukrainian, and it's factually so de jure it's Ukrainian, and it's de facto under Russian control since the internationally unrecognized occupation of 2014, and it comes with its own set of limitations. It was a springboard for the 2022 Russian invasion of the rest of Ukraine, as we have previously discussed, and it's also currently being used as this massive staging area for the Russian drone and missile strikes into the rest of Ukraine. It's a place of great strategic importance because it has access to two seas, the Black Sea that we have discussed a million times, but also the Sea of Azov. Azov, it's the name of the sea, chill. So access to these two seas, and also to very important ports. As you can see on this slide, two of them are actually marked here. One is called Sevastopol, and Balaklava. Balaklava is one of the most insane ones because it used to be a hidden port during the Soviet times. It was not on any maps, and it was a base for the Soviet military submarines, like they have non-military submarines. Also, supposedly, it has the rare earths. Not really. It has some minerals and it has some oil and a little bit of natural gas, but nothing crazy. And it also has dirt that heals people. How about that? I wish I was kidding. Wait, no, I need to show you guys a bigger picture. I wish I was kidding. No, this is a very important part of Crimea. People dunking themselves into dirt. This is something that tourists used to do all the time when I was a kid, and we would laugh at them mercilessly, but it's considered to be healing. So it's like a sort of clay mixed in with dirt that is supposedly healing all of your diseases and illnesses. Is it though? It's really hard to say. Hi Scrunch, we're doing Crimea presentation. Hi Paulina, hello. We're discussing the magic mud. Yeah, and it used to be a very important selling point to many tourists who would come to Crimea, and I'm not kidding. They would literally book tickets and book accommodation and come all the way from God knows where to dip in the magic mud. Is there actually any effect from the magic mud? It's hard to say. I think it's mostly placebo, but I remember my parents telling me that perhaps it like heats up your body, so maybe it's good for your blood's flow. Who knows? I never risked this because not only does it look bad, it also smells awful. It smells just ugh. All right. Anyway, moving on. Let's do a little history check. So, a lot of people have been in Crimea throughout centuries. We're not going to talk about all of them. There were Sumerians, there were Scyths and Goths. Not actual pictures of Scyths and Goths, by the way. We're going to talk a little bit about the Greeks and the Roman Empire, because they were also there, and it's very important for certain players. As you can see on this map, it's all in Ukrainian, but also let me try and show you so that I wouldn't block the view. As you can see, all of these dots, all of these teeny tiny dots, they are Greek colonies, and some of them are the Roman, the points where the Roman soldiers were stationed hundreds of years ago, so like a very, very long time ago. We're talking like 8th century BC. Why does it matter? Well, first of all, surprisingly, growing up, there was a lot of Greek stuff everywhere in Crimea. So randomly, you would find all of these amphoras, you would find some Greek coins, and also we were really proud of our Greek heritage. We would always talk about how, like my hometown, for instance, was founded by the Greeks 2,500 years ago. And these two wonderful examples of the local Crimean architecture, they're all recent, like quite recent. They're not ancient artifacts, obviously. And they were all done as a sort of homage to our Greek past, which is, something that we were proud of. And also, who's that Pokemon? Who's that Russian-shaped figure in the background? It also means a lot to them, because it's played a part in their nation building. after they have taken over Crimea. Another important part to notice about the history of Crimea is this guy. This is Volodymyr the Great, or Vladimir the Great, call him whatever you will. You can see the mustache, the crown, and you can imagine that he was probably some sort of very important figure million years ago in Eastern Europe. He was. This is the guy that we credit with the baptism of the Rus, right? Baptism of Kievan Rus. We need to see you in the sunshine. Thank you, dear. I hope it's a compliment. I would love to see myself in the sunshine. Anyway, so Volodymyr, if there are any people on TikTok who are still not on YouTube, please come to YouTube. We're doing a presentation on Crimea. Anyway, this is the guy that is credited with turning all of Rus, all of Kiev, and all of the lands that then would claim to be Rus later on, such as Moscow, Christian. And he was baptized in Crimea in a city called Khersones. City. It's not a city. It's a town full of Greek ruins. And it was this like major lore moment for all of us. And thank you. Yeah, you're never gonna guess who also claims it as a very important part of their identity and culture and system of beliefs. Yes, it's the Russians. And it also played a very important part in their idea of Crimea, what they call the Crimean myth. But yeah, Christianity in Crimea, interestingly, goes a very long way. And we also have in Crimea these very cool monasteries and churches that are literally in the caves, in the cliffs. And yeah, there's a pretty neat. This one on the right, unfortunately, was destroyed by the Bolsheviks during the Soviet times. But this one on the left is still active. So that's pretty cool. Just a little piece of Christian lore. The next important period that we're going to talk about, we're not going to talk about all of the Italians that were there in between because nobody cares, but they were there. There were the Venetians and the people from the Genovians. But the next most important period in Crimean history is the Crimean Khanate. So as you can see, it lasted from the 15th all the way into the 18th century. It was an actual state of Crimean Tatar people. It was like a descendant of the Golden Horde, but it doesn't matter. It was very much its own thing. It has a distinct language, culture, legal system. And by the way, still Crimean Tatar language still very much exists. And I have linked in the description on YouTube the album of one of our most famous Ukrainian singers who is a Crimean Tatar. Her name is Jamala. She won the Eurovision in 2016, and she has this incredible album dedicated to Crimean Tatar songs about Crimea. So if you're interested, you can check it out. It's in the description on YouTube. It was also under the protectorate of the Ottoman Empire, which is Turkey, constantly clashed with the Zaporizhian Cossacks, which is Proto-Ukrainian state, and struggled deeply against Moscow. And one day, Moscow won. Let me see if you guys are saying anything. Sorry, I get distracted. Healing dirt, don't let Trump know. Everyone is excited to learn about the magic mud. The main Crimean expert. The bioweapons. I know. He will demand ownership, unfortunately. I'm afraid he already has, based on that little document that they have signed. He already owns most of it. So in 1783, the Russians arrive. This is Catherine II, that Russians call Catherine the Great, the Russian Empress. And yeah, you already know it. She takes it. This is the first Russian annexation, 1783. They effectively destroy the Crimean Khanate. Yeah, they absorb it into the Russian Empire because, of course, they do. Good thing that came out of that, it ended Crimean slave trade because Crimea used to be very big on slave trade back in the day. And actually, remember how we talked about these clashes between Crimean Khanate and Cossacks? It was partially because of that, because the Crimean Khanate would raid into what is now southern Ukraine, and they would take people's slaves, and it was very uncomfortable, so they were like clashing with the Cossacks. Yeah, so that was a good thing, but perhaps this was the only good thing that they did, because it was also marked by the de-Tatarization, so they tried to erase the Tatar heritage of Crimea. They've also randomly evicted the Greeks and Armenians, because Catherine II said, we don't need them in Crimea, we need to move them, and they moved them to the Sea of Azov. And, alright, okay, I guess, whatever you say, ma'am. And they also started the procedure of settling the Slavs into Crimea, so That's also going to come back to bite us. The parts of the detatarization were, first of all, they were taking the land from the Crimean Tatars. They were also doing this like Russification policy in which they would change the Tatar names of places, but not into the Russian ones, but into Greek, like Russified Greek ones, which is so bizarre but it actually makes a lot of sense, because the myth of Crimea that they were trying to create at the time was that this is Catherine II's own little piece of Greece. If it sounds insane, that's because it is, but basically this was like a justification for, I don't know, consider the Russian-European claim, right? It's like a massive complex that they have, that they don't really have that much in common with Europe, but they want to be, and she was actually born, I believe, a Prussian princess, so it makes sense that it was like this very important idea for her to prove the European identity of Russia. And yeah, so it was called this Great Greek Project of Catherine II. And yeah, you already know who's a big fan of that one. There's Vladimir Putin right there. He even went on the record quoting, he was talking about this. Wait, do I have his quote written down? Let me see. So when he was annexing Crimea in 2014, which he did, it started to rain, don't mind the rain. He said in his speech dedicated to the annexation that Empress got her piece of ancient Greece in Crimea, kind of hinting at the fact that he also got a piece of Greece, which is okay, I guess, good for you. So that was the first annexation of Crimea in 1783. Let's move on. Okay, this is a very heavy rain. Can you guys hear the rain? I hope you can hear the rain. Wow. Okay, we need to finish this fast because they might turn off the electricity. We might have a blackout. Okay, so I guess it adds to the romance of it all, right? It's a bit romantic. Perfect time to talk about the indigenous people of Crimea. So, despite the effort of detatarization and Russification, and what ended in about 100,000 Crimean Tatars leaving Crimea, a lot of them still remained, and they are now a part of what we in Ukraine, by the Ukrainian law, consider the indigenous people of Crimea. These are three people, so it's the Krimchaks and Karaime, who are these Turkic-speaking Jewish people. And also the Crimean Tatars, very important group, and perhaps the main group among the three, just based on the numbers, because Krimchaks and Karaites, I think the total count is 1,200 each, and Crimean Tatars are, there's 200,000 of them, even more probably. But yeah, so there's a very, very massive difference. And this is Jamala, by the way, carrying her prize. This is the one whose album is linked in the description on YouTube, so if you're interested in listening, please check it out. So as you can see, I am neither of those. I am not Crimean Tatar, I'm not Karaim, I'm not Krimchak, not Armenian or Greek. I'm not one of them. I am, is what they call a part of the majority. I know, boo. Which I believed, and we all believed growing up in Crimea in the 90s and the early 2000s, as the Russian-speaking Ukrainians. We all thought that we were Russian-speaking Ukrainians, but apparently they were always writing us down as Russian. Which is, I know, stop. Freeze frame. How does that happen? How do you go from this to that? First of all, if we go back a little bit, something that you have to keep in mind is that Russian ethnicity was always the most desirable one, both in the Russian Empire and then later in the Soviet Union, that kept the nationality graph in the passports of the citizens. So anyone who could write themselves down as Russian was writing themselves down as Russian, because this would just help you in life. A lot of the Jewish people, for instance, were forced to do this. Ukrainians were also doing this all the time. It was seen as a desirable ethnicity. But it's not only that. It's also the ambiguity between Ruski and Российский, which in English you say Russian for both. But in Russian there is a very clear difference between something that is Ruski, it's the language, it's the ethnicity, and Российский, which is specifically of the Russian state. So we're talking Russian state. And this blurring of the lines between Русский and Российский, it has been deliberate, and you can see how it got weaponized. For instance, in our case, we have been considered Russian because there is only one word for Russian, and now people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens can be like, you're all Russian, but in reality we were Russian-speaking Ukrainians, many of us. Especially the younger people. Anyway, we're not going to go through all of the bloody, horrifying history of Crimea because there is a lot. There's World War I, Russian Revolution, Red Terror, brief independence a couple times. Then there was the White Movement. No, not that. It was basically the opposition to the Bolshevik, to the Red Movement, the conservative royalists, and another Red Terror, and hunger, and then the World War II. So a lot of things happened, and so actually, if we have to go into the actual why was I even born there and why were so many of us born there, it's three reasons. It's the USSR, it's Stalin, and it's the mass deportation and resettlement of Crimea. So my presence there was a result of a forced movement of people in and out of Crimea. And actually, if you look at, for instance, this chart, which I think I'm gonna open as a full screen thingy. Hopefully I will not be blocking it. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just gonna see if it's showing everything correctly. Okay, yeah, I think we can look at it like this. It should be fine. Can we? Almost. Okay, but anyway, the graphs that I wanted to show you in particular, it's these years. It's the years 1939 to 1959. So if you look at the number of the Crimean Tatars who lived in Crimea, you can see that in 1939 the population of Crimean Tatars in Crimea was 218,000 people, and the next census is in 1959, and the graph is empty. And the same goes for 1970. Empty, no Crimean Tatars. While at the same time, the number of the Russians goes up. So from 1939, we go from 558,000 people, so more than 500,000 people, to 858. And then we go to more than 1,220,000 people. And with Ukrainians, it also goes up. It goes from 154 to 267, and then almost 500,000. What happened here? Where did all of the Crimean Tatars go? I'm afraid some of you might already know the answer. They were all deported. In 1944, on May 18th, the entire Crimean Tatar population of Crimea was woken up in the middle of the night, given 15 minutes to pack. Then they were all put into these cars that you see, like cattle cars pretty much, and they were all sent to Central Asia. The charges that were given to them by Stalin were pretty much of treason, just regular Soviet charges, right? Treason, collaboration with the Nazis, because Crimea prior to that period was occupied by the Nazis, so of course everyone is a Nazi collaborator, as we remember the Soviet lore. And also they were accused of being deserters from the front line, which is ironic because remember one of the first slides with the Crimean Tatars that I have shown you. This guy is Crimean Tatar, and he's one of the most famous war heroes of the World War II, and he's twice the hero of the Soviet Union, very famous pilot. Anyway, so a bunch of bogus charges that ended up in the entire people being packed up and deported in the classic Soviet fashion. So what we're looking at here was just people living there for hundreds of years, mind you, just being there, living their lives, and then one day they were all gone. So it says a lot about a period of time when you're looking at things like World War II and World War I and the revolution and the terror, and most of the things that have happened were awful. For instance, of course, during the Nazi occupation, the Jewish population of Crimea was also almost completely exterminated. And yet this one, the deportation of Crimean Tatars, manages to break all of the records of awfulness, and it's considered to be genocide of the Crimean Tatars here in Ukraine. A lot of them, up to, I think, according to some records, up to 30% of them were killed while they were being sent away. According to some numbers, it goes all the way up to 50. So anyway, they were sent away and they were not allowed to return up until 1989, and even then it was still very complicated. The actual comeback of the Crimean Tatars to Crimea began after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, let's see if we have these numbers. You can actually see them. Let's go back to the numbers. Again, we look at Crimean Tatars. Look at the number gradually rising. In 1979, we have the first recorded number, 5,400 of them returned. That's because ever since the 60s, the Soviet authorities stopped reinforcing they stopped preventing them from coming back. Then in 1989, they are rehabilitated by the Soviet Union, and you can see the number gradually growing. But in 2001, so already under Ukrainian Crimea, there is 258,000 people, and I think this was unfortunately the only official big census that Ukraine ever did. So, that's this is what happened with the deportation. One of the worst crimes you can imagine. Let me see if anyone saying anything. Yep, all of them were deported. And so after they have deported the Crimean Tatars and started resettling Crimea with Slavic people, the Soviet period of prosperity and socialism, and Crimea being the center of the tourism in the Soviet Union, has begun. It was actively rebuilt. It was marketed, well, not marketed, obviously it's the Soviet Union. It was promoted to the Soviet people as this paradise on earth, and the place where you can come and cure yourself from all the health issues with the magical mud and the salt and the sea and exercises. And actually this particular one, what we're looking at right now, this image is one of my favorite, because first and foremost, look at what it reminds us of. It's the Greek columns. Yep, it's still the homage. Hi Maddie, we're on YouTube doing Crimea presentation, come join us. This is the homage to Greece, even under the Soviet control. And what it says here, it says, the citizens of the Soviet Union have a right to relax. Alright, chill. Anyway. But also, the Soviet period is marked by a very interesting event that is gonna go down as one of the most important talking points of the Russian propaganda, and it's that in 1954, many of you might recognize this man, this beautiful man right here. It's Khrushchev, I think you guys are calling him. Hi PG, we're on YouTube, check us out, we're doing presentation on Crimea. All classes there. Anyway, this is Khrushchev with his shoe. And this is something that the Russian propaganda and the Russian state has never forgiven him for, because they're blaming him personally for this decision. In 1954, the Soviet Union officially passed Crimea from being a part of the Russian Socialist Republic. Oh, just a moment. Sorry. A little pause. Everybody, apologies. We'll be back. Okay. I'm also trying to record it as a video, and I'm failing miserably. I'm so bad at this. Anyway. So Crimea went from being a part of the Russian Soviet Socialist Republic to being a part of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And as you can see, this is the quote from the decree of the Soviet Presidium of the Soviet government, taking into account the integral character of the economy, the territorial proximity, and the close economic and cultural ties between the Crimea province and the Ukrainian SSR, the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, the Presidium of the USSR Supreme Soviet decrees to approve the transfer of the Crimea province from the Russian SFSR to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. So obviously it was more of a gesture, right? Because they were still part of the same Soviet Union. It wasn't really, right? It wasn't like this extreme thing that happened. Oh no, they took Crimea and just gave it to America. It wasn't like that. But you can see the justification here. And it surprisingly makes a lot of sense because yes, it does have territorial proximity. It's the only connection that Crimea has to the mainland. It does have close economic and cultural ties. It makes a lot of sense. And the Russian propaganda never forgave them for that. In fact, when we move into the 90s, after the fall of the USSR, one of the things that the Russians did in 1992, right, so a couple years, they canceled this decision of the Crimean transfer because, yeah, this is the most important thing in the world. But yes, in the 1991, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there is a referendum. And it actually seemed pretty legit at the moment, and Crimeans show up to vote, and they all vote. 1,440,000 of them, I believe, voted to keep the USSR. I always refer to this referendum as extremely telling, right? So by the end of by the collapse of the Soviet Union, we're facing a peninsula that has been not only Russified, it has been Sovietized just beyond recognition. The people who are living there, so people, for instance, I wasn't born there, but in a couple of years I will be, we would be the descendants of those Soviet laborers who were sent to Crimea to work there, because the Soviet Union had this policy of you basically just being sent to any place the government deems, you know, you're needed at a whim, without you actually having any say in it. So they could have sent you to Siberia, they could have sent you to Crimea, they could have sent you to Kiev. It all was up to the government. You basically graduate, you receive a note of where you're getting transferred. Okay, you're going to be working at a factory in Magnitogorsk. This is it. This is how your life was going to be. And so the descendants of these people, but also taking into the account how desirable of a destination Crimea was, how beautiful and amazing it was, and the magic dirt, everybody. There was also a lot of people who were aiming to be there, and a lot of the Russian upper echelons who wanted to be there, a lot of the officers, a lot of the KGB people would go there into retirement. So the population of Crimea has been, it's been quite something in the 90s. And I'm not surprised at all that they voted this way, because if there's anything I could define them as, is as extremely post-Soviet. The Crimean people at the beginning of the 90s, they were extremely and painfully post-Soviet, and this would only begin to change gradually with time, with the integration into Ukraine, gradual, and I believe something that was failed, unfortunately, by the Ukrainian government, perhaps because there was never any real effort to integrate it fully. With the return of the Crimean Tatars, the shift would start gradually, but unfortunately it was too little too late. But you can see that in the 90s, the process of the first attempts to annex Crimea, to put a claim to Crimea by the Russians, start to happen. So, for instance, after they have cancelled that Khrushchev's, remember how he looked? Yep, that's Khrushchev. After they cancel his decision, there is very strong tension, and the Crimean parliament proclaims independence, which could potentially be seen as a first step to the Russian annexation, but it doesn't happen because there are inner tensions within Russia. Many of you remember 1993 was a very, very complicated year in Russia, and Yeltsin didn't want to go through with something that could potentially be seen as a failed annexation, because Ukraine immediately deployed the National Guard to Crimea, and so the annexation didn't happen. Instead, they signed an agreement on the division of the Black Sea Fleet, but pretty much since 1994, TikTok wants to log me out, don't do that to me, TikTok. Okay, since 1994, we have went from the like more active stages, more open attempts to annex Crimea, to these more sort of hidden, soft power tools. They would from now on rely on political parties, and they would rely on all of these cultural institutions like the Russian cultural centers that would be open in 2000, first in, I think, in Simferopol and then in Sevastopol. So it was all very much soft power based, but also at the same time there was a lot of recruitment happening behind the scenes in the Crimean parliament, because unfortunately the decision for Crimea to gain an autonomy, which it was within Ukraine, and it was seen as this massive progress at that time. It was considered such a successful example of federative division, like, oh, this is a region that has all these Russian speakers and they have their government and they're within Ukraine. What a beautiful, idyllic scenario. Who's gonna tell them? Anyway, so that backfired tremendously in the future. But back then we didn't know. Of course, we didn't know that it was going to crash and burn, and growing up in Crimea was not an oppressive experience at all. A huge chunk of Russian propaganda these days is how we were struggling under Ukrainian regime, how we were oppressed, and how everything was bad. We couldn't speak Russian. This is actually the picture that you're seeing on the left. This is actually me in all pink. It's my back, because my mom, who's taking the picture, is an incredible photographer. This is me getting awarded as some local forestry for writing the best story about the forest in Russian. So no, we were not oppressed for being Russian-speaking Crimeans. It was all fine. It was not, it wasn't anything crazy, but it was a good childhood. It wasn't rich, because no one was really rich at that time, but it was awesome, and it felt amazing. And especially in the 2000s, when things started to kind of look up, we started opening up to the world more, and yeah, we believe that everything's gonna be perfect, incredible from now on, and nothing bad could possibly happen to us. Well, what do you know? What do you know, you guys? In 2014, everything has changed. Hello, Nick. We're on YouTube doing a presentation about Crimea. Don't be confused. So yeah, Russian annexation. What is there to say? In 2014, first in February, this was late February of 2014, the Russian troops officially entered Crimea, but in reality the preparations for it began much earlier. It was much earlier than that, and my family and friends began to notice it months prior. They started noticing a lot of new people on the streets of our town, and it became obvious to them that something is happening. Some preparations are happening for something big, and this is what happened. So using this sort of power vacuum and the very painful situation that Ukraine was in because of the Maidan and our glorious President Yanukovych fleeing the country, Russians used it, and they occupied Crimea. First there were troops, and then there was the kangaroo referendum that, of course, couldn't possibly count, because how can you do an honest referendum when you send in the troops first? And yeah, pretty much the rest is history. They have used all of the justifications for this annexation, all of them that we have just discussed. They have used the imaginary Greek heritage and the connection to Kievan Rus, and although they usually omit the word Kievan from Rus, it's just the Rus and baptism and how they are the third Rome and Crimea is rightfully theirs, and they're on their civilizational mission to do whatever, and that the rotten West cannot be allowed to have Crimea, and that Khrushchev is cancelled, and actually Crimea has always been Russian. So it's all of this. Ukraine doesn't have all of these arguments, mostly because Ukraine doesn't really operate in delusion. On its side, Ukraine has the international law, geography, and common sense. But unfortunately, in this world that we're living in, this is not enough. So yeah, it remains factually, de facto, Russian, and it has been for a very long time now. There are already kids growing up there who will be identifying as Russian, and it's really hard to say whether or not there is any sort of prospect to change the situation in the foreseeable future. Although, I'm gonna end this on an unexpected twist, which a lot of you, I imagine, didn't see coming. Nobody expected Erdogan. What are you doing here? The glorious leader of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Well, this is another force at play here that is honestly not as dramatic. It doesn't have as much impact as like Russia and Ukraine do. But whenever Crimea is a part of the conversation, Recep Tayyip Erdogan is at the forefront, remembering about it, saying that he believes in the Ukrainian territorial integrity. And it's very interesting to see because, of course, he's not doing this just out of the kindness of his heart. Obviously, he is doing because this is a part of the soft power. We already talked about the soft power before and how important it is, and how the Russians have been using it in the 90s. So this is what... Hi, Jonathan. We're on YouTube doing finishing presentation about Crimea, if you're interested. So this is what he is doing at the moment. He has great influence among the Crimean Tatar diaspora. A lot of you remember that the Crimean Tatar are a Turkic people, so there's a lot in common culturally between Turkey and them. So there is a lot of this there. A lot of them are in Turkey. They're moving there. Turkey showing a lot of support to their cause. Some are seeing a sinister motive here because a lot of talking about, well, Erdogan has always had this dream of the Turkic world, an imperial Turkish entity. But perhaps it's just the good old never-ending beef with Russia that is something that Turkey is also very good at, and that it's something that has been continuing for a while. Yeah, you never know. But it's a very interesting player in the situation because Turkey is also a NATO country, and Turkey is right across from Crimea. And who knows, maybe if we were to see something to ever happen one day, if we were, let me put it this way, if we were to see something happen there one day, they will be playing a part in this. And that's all I'm gonna say about this. So that was my deep dive into Crimea. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope this was entertaining for you. This is a part of what I am hoping to do, to make a weekly series on the topic of the People's Choice. The people on Patreon voted for this. There's gonna be a new poll up in a couple hours after I'm done with the stream. So thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. And now we're going to go back to our regular broadcast. We have Trump, we have Germans and China, and a lot of, I think Orban also did something stupid. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Let me see what you guys are saying. Turkey jump scare. Thank you guys. I really hope you liked it. Sorry, I know I got carried away, but it could have been a bit more entertaining, but this is the first time, so nowhere to go but up, hopefully. Of course, I didn't record anything. I was also hoping to post it as a separate video, but I think my camera just stopped working. Okay, whatever. Thank you. Why didn't Ukraine respond better to the invasion? Because it was in a disarray, right? It was this power vacuum that was created by the situation in Kiev with Maidan, with the shooting of the protesters at the Maidan, with Yanukovych fleeing and there being no active government because Yanukovych, our president at the time, he fled the country. Right? He fled the country and he left us like a chicken without head. I mean, it was also kind of for the best that he did flee, but at the same time, it was used as this excuse to do whatever. This is one of the reasons, actually, why we compliment Zelensky so much on his decision to stay, because we have already seen what happens when the president flees at times like this. This is what happens. There was no command, no organized action, nothing like how in 1994 they have deployed the troops almost immediately. The Ukrainian National Guard was deployed to Crimea immediately. Nothing like that happened. So yeah, unfortunately. And also, of course, there is the factor of the Russian interference and Russian presence in the Crimean structures, in the Crimean parliament. Remember how we talked about how autonomy backfired, the Crimean autonomy? That's because it was the government that was, yeah, basically hijacked by the Russians. So the people on the ground, those of them who tried to fight back, were of course killed. Putin's propaganda is claiming that the annexation of Crimea was bloodless. It wasn't bloodless. There were at least 10 confirmed cases of the officers and soldiers who were killed. There were even more, I believe, who were not openly confirmed, who were hidden. There were also soldiers who fled to mainland Ukraine, some of them with equipment. But also there was a lot of traitors who just switched sides, because one of the worst parts about this, I've told you about how post-Soviet a lot of Crimeans are. This comes with a great deal of passivity, of being passive about, oh, it doesn't matter, it's whatever. Hi, thank you, Disco Dave. It's whatever, it doesn't matter whose flag is, on top of our government buildings. It doesn't matter who is the president, nothing matters. And this passivity, unfortunately, is much more detrimental to the common good than even people being proactively bad. The proactively Russian people didn't do half the damage as the passively, whatever people did. So I hope this answers your question. And thank you, Carol. Thank you, Brave and Crazy. Thank you. And thank you, Michael. Okay, you guys liked it. And Zoe liked it too. Thank you, Zoe. Let me see what you guys are saying on here. We had friends in Crimea that had to leave overnight. They were established missionaries. It's a good thing that they left. Because, yeah. It's not... Oh, thank you, Dana. It's a crab. And recently in Russia there have been instances of persecution of the... there were definitely still are cases of persecution of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and just in general their attitude towards Protestantism is not good. It's not good at all. Why did NATO not help? This was... Carol says, back to my comfort zone on TikTok. Why did NATO not help? This was actually something that we were very confused about, because we were convinced that something's going to happen. We were convinced there was going to be a response. We were convinced that, there's going to be something's going to happen. No, nothing happened. I remember it broke my dad's heart, absolutely, because he is such a believer in the West and in the NATO, and when nothing was done and we were just left to fend for ourselves. No, but after that, after thinking about this, first and foremost, you cannot expect someone to fight for you when you're not fighting yourself, right? And as we have just discussed, there was very little effort to fight back. The passive majority just chose, whatever happens, happens. And why no one else in our dog-eat-dog world will fight for someone who isn't... Well, most of the people won't fight even someone who is willing to fight for themselves, as the situation in Ukraine is proving. But if you're not willing to stand up for yourself, no one's even going to support you. There were sanctions introduced immediately. They were very weak, and they were mostly on Crimea. So we were stuck in this gray area economically, while the Russians continued to fly to Paris and. So inadvertently, I think we were more punished than they were. That was weird. And all of these limitations you would face for having Ukrainian passports and stuff, or Crimean passport. Crimean, it's not passport, it's the registration. So it's this graph that we still have in our passport that states, the region that you're from, your city, your town, your village. So, yeah. Why did Ukraine not have a navy? After we split the Black Sea Fleet with Russians in 1994, Russians got 80% of the fleet. Such a fair deal, I know, but actually a lot of those ships were, all of the military equipment that was left in the 90s, it was common Soviet. It wasn't just Russian, it wasn't just Ukrainian, it was supposed to be split evenly, it wasn't. There were all of these agreements that were made, God knows why, and as a part of this agreement, we have gotten 20% of the Black Sea Fleet, and then it was just completely forgotten about and left to rot. And I think the last ship that we had, I think it was a Hetman Sagaidachny. Let me see if I have pictures of that ship. It was actually drowned, and I think it was like a sabotage of sorts. Hetman Sagaidachny корабль. Fregat. Yeah, that was our No, okay, we have partially drowned it. It was one of the ships that were left for us. Yeah, it was partially drowned in Mykolaiv after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, because they were worried that if the Russians take over Mykolaiv, they were obviously gonna capture it and they were gonna use it against us. So a bit different. Something else was sabotaged. I think a submarine that we had, or maybe it just rusted to to dust. But no, none of the Soviet heritage was split evenly. Like, why the hell did the Russians get this seat at the UN Security Council? It was the Soviet seat. The Soviet Union said, why is it theirs? Nobody knows. So there are many examples like this, unfortunately. Many examples like this, I'm afraid. Nobody can say Russia hasn't always been playing the long game, right? Right? It's so obvious now. I'm like, whenever I go back, oh, thank you, Kiwi Jess. Whenever I go back and I look at this, I just can't stop thinking how blind we were. How absolutely oblivious we were, because we were living in this parallel universe of sunshine and rainbows, thinking, oh, no, it's good, everything is good. They're our friends. Alright, you guys. We still have more things to discuss because we got distracted with the Crimean deep dive, which hopefully you liked. You keep telling me that you did, but I don't know. Do you actually mean it? We had a very interesting situation in Kiev. So, 2 Chinese citizens were detained in Kiev because apparently they were spying, trying to get a hold of the secret documentation relating to our Ukrainian Neptune missile. That's the one that has been, according to our military, that has been used to, for instance, get the Moskva ship. So interesting. So yeah, they were detained by our SBU, which is our intelligence, and yeah, they're currently saying that these 2 Chinese citizens, apparently a father and a son or something. Yes, it's a father and a son, so it's a family unit. They're working in family units now. And one of them is a 24-year-old former student of one of the Kiev universities who mysteriously remained in Kiev in 2023. And then there is his dad, who was visiting his son, and as our intelligence is saying, it was to coordinate his son's work regarding this potential theft. It's really interesting, but apparently, according to the SBU again, the plan for this former Chinese student was to get the documentation through recruiting a Ukrainian who has relation to new, basically works with those weapons and works on modifying and modernizing them. And yeah, apparently our SBU has discovered the spy network at the very beginning, at the planning stages of their activity, and they were caught while receiving the secret documents. So I assume it was a trap. And then the dad was also detained. So the dad entered Ukraine on July 7th and immediately went to the Chinese embassy in Kiev, which is still open. And yeah, they are now both detained under... Oh, we literally have an article called Spying. So yeah, under that article. What are we thinking about that? What do we think about the Chinese spies? Any thoughts? Hi, Kansas Steve. Hello. The West showed weakness. Kinda did. Obama was not prepared 100%. That he also needed Russia for the Iran deal when the Crimea deal was happening. So there was a lot. But also he believes that he did very well because he gave an interview a couple years ago being like, that's the best we could do. I mean, what do you know? Okay, Chinese spies, what do we think? Let me know. I was really intrigued by this, because this is the first one. We have never had this before, and I'm kind of excited. It's obviously an escalation, and it's the next stage, and it's very, very sad, and it's not going to lead us to anything good. But it's also exciting because it's something new. We haven't had Chinese spies. We've had obviously Russian spies. We have had Belarusian spies. Chinese spies, though, that's interesting. And also trying to steal the Neptune missile out of all things. Yanukovych, yeah, I know. A bit like what with Trump in Canada, it was one of the reasons why this rhetoric was so infuriating to me. I understand it's just probably because he's just saying things for the sake of saying them, as he does, and then he forgets after 5 minutes. But seeing this happen with Canada and also with Greenland, it just immediately, for me personally, I don't know, call it triggered. But it's not the type of rhetoric that you randomly joke with. It's people's lives. But then again, he just... We're gonna get to him. He already said so much about the weapons again. It keeps happening. Yeah, they thought they could go to Kiev and be like, hey, hello, I'm a Chinese spy. Can I get a bunch of your secret documents regarding your missiles, please? Honestly, props to SBU for this one. I'm impressed. A Chinese embassy in Kiev. And, Carol, I don't know, do you remember a couple of days ago we discussed there's apparently a consulate in Odessa. And we learned about this because someone mentioned on the live stream, the Chinese, like the drone that Russia sent towards Odessa that had Chinese parts, damaged a Chinese consulate in Odessa. And I was like, we have a Chinese consulate in Odessa. What is Yeah, we do. Apparently we do. Because of course, before the full-scale invasion, we had such a massive force within our politics working for China, pushing the Chinese interests within the country. I remember there was an investigation into this, that like about 200 Ukrainian politicians were recruited and they were pushing for the Chinese interest. Unfortunately, I lost that material. I really need to find it. Then, of course, 2022 happened. We had other things to distract us. But with everything that's happening right now, and everyone kind of sort of clearly realizing more and more with every passing day whose side China is on, yeah, we need to look at those lists. we need to take this type of stuff very, very seriously. So yeah, thank you. I'm not surprised. Getting Russia's happy about the spies. Yeah, North Korea. You see, they're involved on the front line. I don't know much about the North Korean spies. I don't really. For some reason, I cannot see it really. They do have spy networks, though, infamously working in Japan. There were instances related to the kidnappings, the very famous kidnappings of the Japanese citizens into North Korea. This is one of the most sort of heated, dramatic points of their relationship. That, and also the fact that Kim continuously tries to send a bunch of missiles towards Japan. But here, it's enough that we have them at the front lines, I imagine, so... sorry, Fire Dog. For now, we're in my long, sassy hair era. We'll have to live with that for now. I've been growing it out for too long. Anyway, Chinese spies. How about that? Okay, this is very sad. I'm gonna close this. The missile strikes we have already discussed. We also had a very suspicious activity in Europe, in London, the capital of Great Britain. I don't know if you guys have already seen that, but we are constantly discussing the topic of the hybrid attacks all across the European Union and Europe overall, and all of the nations that are partnered with Ukraine, and all of the nations that Russia considers their mortal enemies, and the UK is like at the top of that list. So we have had a case of 3 men being found guilty of Wagner, that's the Wagner as in Russian mercenary group, linked arson attack in London. We have the 3 faces behind this, and yeah, they have been found guilty of an arson attack on a warehouse linked to Ukraine. and the attack was supposedly on behalf of the Russian mercenary group Wagner, which still exists. I know, it's surprising, but apparently it still does. And this particular warehouse, I know that apparently they had some of the like Starlinks and stuff like this, so the connection supplies for the front lines. And so, yeah, these three, Jakim, Rose, Yugnius, Zmena, and Nim Mensa, were found guilty. Okay, good. Aggravated arson. Yeah, internet satellite equipment to Ukraine. That's usually Starlinks, because Starlinks are the ones that our military is using the most. The attack was, thank you, orchestrated by Dylan Earl, 20, and Jake Reeves, 23. Notice how young all these people are. 20, 23, 23, 20, 23, just early 20s, all of them. And probably all recruited through like chats, maybe through Telegram, maybe through something, just social media. Anyway, and yeah, around £1 million worth of damage was caused in the attack. And it was last year, right? But it's good that at least we're seeing some progress in these people being found guilty, because you have to make it as public as possible so that they would know there's real punishment. Although knowing that it's the UK, I'm afraid they probably got like 6 days in prison each. Let me see. It's a mosquito, go away. Let me see, what was the sentence? A fourth man. Okay, we have an exception. We have a fourth man named Paul English. Sorry. Paul English. Gee, I wonder where this guy is from. 61 of Roehampton. He was cleared of wrongdoing. Okay, so Paul can continue burning up the warehouses, I imagine. And this is the picture of a fire. So, again, not the first time we're seeing something like this happen. It's a very common tool. We have seen similar types of attacks in Poland, in Latvia. This is just from the top of my head. I think there was one in Czech Republic too, like the types of arson. Yep, they were recruited through Telegram. Met on Telegram. Who could have thought? How do I know this? How did I immediately know? Not just because Telegram is obviously, it's a Russian app, but also because this is how they recruit Ukrainians too, for terrorist attacks inside Ukraine. Very, very common tool. They just recruit them through Telegram chats, unfortunately. What cute face. Inspired and full of knowledge and thirst for life. So, yeah, I know. Did you see Putin and Kim Jong-un mourning North Korean soldiers? I did see Kim Jong-un mourning North Korean soldiers. I also saw they had like this whole performance a couple of weeks ago. I think we covered it in one of the streams, where they were singing, there was all this. Yeah, it was very cynical. Imagine sending all of these people off to die for nothing, just thousands of miles away from home, and then pretending like you care. Yeah. Classic dictator stuff. Some serious dictator nonsense. Yeah, I know. That's what they do. They sit in the basements and then they just become terrorists and start burning stuff up. So yeah, just good to see that they were found guilty. These people... Okay, wait, we need to talk about why we were on the topic of China. We needed to talk about the lasers targeting Germany. We will get into this in a second. I couldn't, but today was the day of insane news. So first it was the Chinese spies in Kiev. Then I continue reading, just making bookmarks. And the next thing I see, Germany says China laser targeted aircraft during EU mission. Immediately, what? And apparently this is like from 2 days ago. How come we didn't see it before? But yeah, Germany's foreign office said that a Chinese warship aimed a laser at a German aircraft on patrol in the Red Sea. China's ambassador has been summoned following the incident. I saw this news somewhere on the social media, and all the comments were from all of these snarky communists. Be like, what was German aircraft doing in the Red Sea? What was Chinese warship doing in the Red Sea? I think that's also a valid question. That's a valid question for everyone involved. So can we please concentrate on the laser part? Because what? So, yeah, as we all know, why are they in the Red Sea? J.D. Vance has told us, months ago, that Europe cares about the Red Sea much more than the US does because it's their trade mostly that goes through the Red Sea. There's the constant missions to protect the commercial ships in the Red Sea these days, and apparently, European Union's very actively participating in them. So, no one is surprised about that. At least I don't think no one who understands how trade works, especially knowing with everything that's been happening in the Red Sea with the Houthis and the rockets and the German Foreign Office on Tuesday said that it summoned China's ambassador to Germany, Deng Hongbo, following an incident. Okay, wonderful. But still, can we please get more details on the laser? Because what is that? Obviously, this is a demonstration of power, right? Like, hey, look, we can shoot lasers at you. But at the same time, it's like really... Oh, hi, Moo. Hello. Good to see you. Oh, you are late for my insufferable presentation on Crimea. But you are just in time for the Chinese lasers targeting German aircraft. Endangering German personnel and disrupting the operation is entirely unacceptable. Very German statement. So, Germany's military is involved in... Okay, it's called Operation Espies, which aims to protect commercial ships in the Red Sea from the Houthi militia, as we've just... it was obvious. And it involves up to 700 German military personnel. So, the lasers. Unclear what type of laser used. Does it really matter, though? Is it not enough that it's a laser? It was not immediately clear whether the laser was a weapon or a laser guidance system. Okay, that's important. You need to know whether or not the laser was actually a weapon. But anyway, the mission was aborted. So the way this information is covered is very, very interesting because it's all about the optics here. It was all about the lasers, and Chinese accounts immediately jumped in with, the weapon of the next century, all of this. How cool is that China can now just, casually use lasers against German aircrafts in the Red Sea? What's interesting for me, it's such a clear part of the just general Chinese approach to presenting themselves everywhere, especially on social media. Recently, there's been such a deliberate targeted campaign to present China as this next century, insanely technologically advanced entity that lives in the future. And I think a lot of you might have seen this. A lot of you might have seen this too, just by randomly scrolling. You would find these bloggers, Chinese railways out of this world, and then it's a high-speed railway, I guess, okay, but it's like, oh my god, China has flying cars. They had this streamer who went to China, what's his name? I don't remember, the American streamer who went there, did a bunch of PR for them, like, flying car, what in the Back to the Future is that, right? All of these things are the neon lights of the Chinese cities, and then there's the clouds of smoke on top of them, because you cannot breathe in those. But anyway, and it goes so well with this overall campaign of creating optics of this, I don't know. I'm so 2008, you're so 2000 and late, as the Black Eyed Peas said it in their immortal hit, Boom Boom Pow. So, just interesting to observe these things. Okay, sorry. As always, I'm super behind the chat as it happens. If you feel like I haven't answered your question, please go to YouTube. I'm also live on YouTube. I see all the comments on YouTube. YouTube chat is super chill. 53 people currently on YouTube. Just a heads up. Telegram is a dangerous app. I mean, all of them are dangerous, but yes, Telegram is dangerous in particular. Just the type of content that you can find on Telegram, the types of connection that you can make on Telegram, I don't think you can make them as easily on any other major app, that's for sure. I mean, I obviously have Telegram and I use it because, not because I'm connected to the underworld or whatever, but because all of our government officials have official Telegram channels. It's extremely counterproductive, I know. But whenever I want to, if we want to see what is Zelensky saying, what is his recent What's the deets on his meeting with the President of Italy and the Pope? We have to go to Telegram, because immediately this is his official channel, has a little check mark. This is him with Sergio Mattarella, and they're talking about something about the sincere friendship between Ukraine and Italy. Wonderful, thank you for that. Also, he met the Pope while we're on the topic of of Zelensky. Look at him with the Pope. I love this Pope so much. Maybe the laser thing is a first for the Germans, but the Chinese have been doing it for a while. Right, I think in the sea, right? Where was it? What's the name of it? South China Sea? How do you say it? There's so many different names for that place. Or was there something else that I missed? Too much movement from China. Have you noticed how they activated? Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it, you guys. It's just not good. I don't know, Zelensky and the Pope, look at it. The Pope has been awesome. Okay, let me catch up with the chat, and then I will... Of course, always time to catch up, no worries. Lasers can dazzle pilots and blind or disorient them. I didn't even think about it this way. You're 100% correct. So it's still technically a weapon then, right? That just sucks. Oh, bye, Carol. Sorry, I didn't see you go. 2 p. Okay, have a good day. See you in a couple of days. China is projecting its power around the world. It's been so big on optics recently. It was such a campaign. I remember receiving all of these messages. Oh, there's this new Chinese app. If you're an influencer on TikTok, subscribe to get an account on our app and tell people to come too. Tell your subscribers to come to this Chinese app. I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Do you know where I'm from? But yeah, there was a lot of this, a lot of promotion, a lot of projecting this image, and I think it's for a reason, and we all understand what the reason is, unfortunately. The new Pope is a whole... I know! He is amazing! I'm such a fan of the new Pope. Go Pope Leo! Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you. I'm really glad you liked it. Yeah, we need to talk about Holodomor one of the days. Okay, I think I can make it as one of the topics for the voting for the next week. Okay, did I catch up with you guys? I think China's gonna take Taiwan in 2026. Hopefully not earlier. They could easily do it in a couple months, so... And I don't like this entire conversation about them coordinating with Putin on this. I used it to keep up with events in Ukraine, then, oh my god, what I saw on there made me remove it fast. Yep. A lot of graphic stuff, uncensored. A lot of propaganda, a lot of dead bodies. A lot of results of explosions and drones hitting people, and yeah. The last couple of years, I think I've never seen this much graphic content in my life as I did in the last couple of years. And to be fair, it is because I'm following the events very, very closely, but still, I don't think it has become so normalized. And I don't like it. I don't like it how normalized these things are these days, that you can just go and see a bunch of dead bodies torn to pieces. Let's get back to the Pope. So, Zelensky met with the Pope. This is them doing a photo op. Having a nice little conversation. The Pope has been amazing when it came to Ukraine. Even before he became the Pope, he was a very outspoken friend of ours, and it was just so sweet. And then I think one of the first things he talked about, it was us. Immediately, like after he was made Pope, it was he was talking about us and support for Ukraine. So yeah, I guess in a way it makes sense that he would meet with Zelensky. And, no, oh no, oh no, oh no, no, oh, it wasn't just Zelensky. It was other people too. Oh, I'm gonna cry. No, it's Yermak too. Okay, now I'm embarrassed. I was so happy for a moment and now I'm so sad. It's Yermak. It's all of the... it's all of them. Oh no. Now, why would you do that? Why would you go and send all these people in to... Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna concentrate on the good stuff. Zelensky and the Pope, okay. So it's been great. It's been great, having such an outspoken supporter of Ukraine, because with Francis, with the previous Pope, it was very much hit or miss with Francis. So, for instance, I will never forget how he wrote a letter to us in 2022. It was such a wonderful, thoughtful, kind letter that he wrote, and he didn't have to do this. We have very small percentage of Catholics in Ukraine, but it was so wonderful, especially considering how like the guy, for instance, who has a lot of his parishioners, a lot of his churchgoers here, it's the Russian Patriarch Kirill. Of course he didn't say anything because he supports the aggression, and so seeing the Catholic Pope writing such a letter was incredible. At the same time, he was also very big on incredible Russians, and he did a bunch of such weird statements. There was a really weird racist one about how it's the Russian minorities that commit all of the war crimes and that the Russians are good. Yeah, so with Pope Francis it was, but with Pope Leo it's been very, very, very good, very thoughtful. So very, very grateful to him. My dad is from Chicago, and a Pope from Chicago is next level. I can imagine. I wonder how many handshakes separate you from the Pope. Comes from a very diverse community, and it shows. And he also worked for a very long time in South America, right? I think in Peru. So that's also good. That's a good sign. We love to see that. Okay, we need to discuss the weapons conundrum. Let's talk about the weapons shipments because, oh my God. Trump warning, you guys, trigger warning. We're gonna be looking and listening to Trump, so please, if you're feeling nauseous, okay, if you're irritated easily today, but also this one, I mean, I would probably even appreciate it if we were not on this crazy roller coaster with the weapons in the last couple of weeks. We're not giving you any. Oh, no, we're going to give you some. No, we're not giving you anything. Nope, we're going to give you 10 rockets. Everyone is really tired, unfortunately. But anyway, so first and foremost in this clip, the reporter... Okay, let's just look at what is happening. I can't hear anything. Just so confused. No, okay, we can.
John maybe to discuss it if you'd like, John.
Okay, this is just, it's neither here nor there, but basically the reporter asked, so Ukraine has asked the international court to go up to Russia for using toxic chemicals in the fight, which is something that we have discussed before. It's not the first time they have done this. There were several cases, repeatedly chemical warfare used on the battlefield, which is against, I imagine, every single convention in existence. To which Trump is whispering to Hegseth, what do you know about this? And Hegseth goes back, John might know. And then Trump says, well, I'd ask John to discuss. So nothing, just nobody knows anything. And then this clip, I think, is something that everyone has been discussing about Putin throwing a bunch of crap at him.
The Ukrainians were brave, but we gave them the best equipment ever made. We gave them the anti-tank busters that knocked out tanks. I mean, you just aim them in the direction of the tank and the tank is gone. We gave them missiles, the latest and the greatest. They were able to shoot down a lot of things that would have normally wiped out. Probably would have been a very quick war. It would have been a war that lasted 3-4 days. But the Ukrainians were brave. But we gave
a lot to unpack here, but this is not the clip that... You just aim it. You just aim it at a tank, and the tank is gone. Okay, it's like the Chinese lasers, right?
I don't know. We get.
Wait, is this the clip?
I don't know. We get we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
He finally noticed. Congratulations to all of us. He finally noticed that Putin is throwing a bunch of BS at him.
We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us
Okay,
by
that's
Putin,
enough.
if you
Thank
wanna
you,
know
sir.
the truth.
That's enough. All right. It's good. Maybe in a couple of months he will notice something else about this war as well. Who knows? But this is actually, it's apparently it could be a good sign. Why could it be a good sign? Well, that's because first and foremost we're now talking about the weapon shipments potentially being resumed, because they're now, CNN at least says that it's all Hexeth's fault. At first we were blaming that Elbridge person, now it's Pete. Of course it is. But anyway, we went back to talking about the resuming of the shipments. Whether or not it was an accident or deliberate doesn't really matter. We're talking about resuming. What he said next was that, Trump said next, was that he's going to give us 10 missiles for Patriot systems. Which is, no, I mean, it's appreciated. It's really good. It's better than nothing. The only issue here is that when you look at this, at all of these drones and all of these missiles, 10 Patriot rockets, I'm not entirely sure how efficient this is going to be, but alright, okay, I guess, sure. And then we started talking about the possible approval of the next round of the Russian sanctions, which is, again, we're in this bizarre limbo of talking about the talking, but at least it's now somehow somewhat on the table because he figured out that Putin is BSing him. So, yay us, I guess, congratulations to all of us. So, it's almost like you hired incompetent people. I know I was under the impression that the Fox News host would be the most incredible defense guy in existence. And what is this? What is happening? We were tricked once again. I mean, what do you think of Poland building a wall around it? Okay, we're going to talk about this in a second. Let me just read what the chat is saying. Okay, I think everything is good. Okay. We're gonna get to the Poland situation too, inevitably. For a country that sells more weapons than anyone else, we sure don't want to arm Ukraine. Weird. Yeah, I wonder why. What is happening? It's all for the peace. It's all for the peaceful process, because, as you guys remember, the country that doesn't have means to defend itself. Okay, stop it, please. Shut up. The country that doesn't have means to defend itself will soon be overrun and will stop existing, and then there will be peace, which is wonderful and beautiful and something that we should all be striving towards, I guess. Anyway, here's another comment about how we have been and remain Ukraine's biggest supporters. All right.
About arms shipments stopping from the United States to Ukraine. And my warning then was, wait a minute, that this is one situation, that you should not extrapolate it as a new policy or position, that we have been and remain Ukraine's biggest supporters. We care about those people. We care about making sure that they have what they need. The president has been very vocal about the wholesale slaughter that has been going on, and how it has to stop, how there has to be a ceasefire, and how it has to be between the two parties. Within that, I noted that, of course, wait, and here we do now have, besides a phone alarm, we have, of course, the resumption of weapons shipments to Ukraine. The president has been vocal about this. Without the details of exactly what, the president feels obviously very passionate and determined regarding the ability of Ukraine to defend itself.
Okay, that's nothing. That's the beautiful art of saying so many things without saying anything at all. But yeah, so we're currently at this stage. Is it good? Is it good that we're at least not at the okay, we're halting all of the shipments, but we are sort of somehow determined, and a win is a win, I guess. It's probably gonna change tomorrow. Tomorrow they're gonna forget that they have sent something, and then the day after tomorrow they're gonna nuke us because it's so hard to analyze this. I cannot imagine all of these people at the think tanks having to, like, for real, sitting down and analyze this and write reports on this and write all of the, like, actual analytics. Because it's just like this, and no one is really saying anything. What are we thinking? Do we have any opinions, everybody? Oh, we have someone yelling for Russia and spamming that. This is not how we say this in Russian. Do you even speak Russian? Ты по-русски говоришь, дебил. Что ты пишешь? Ты понимаешь, ты выкупаешь вообще, что ты пишешь? Это не русский язык, придурок. Thank you. Was it Zoe who got him? Anyway. This was not in good Russian, what he wrote. We occasionally get these, I think all Ukrainians had to deal with. It's the Westerners who pretend to be Russian, and they yell stuff at us in English, which is no Russian would ever do. Like, this is just no, never. If you would like to be a Russian troll who's insulting people from the former Soviet countries, former countries occupied by Russia, number one thing that you will never do, you will never use English. And when they try to write it the way the Russians would write it, they of course cannot conjugate the words properly because they don't know. So it's very funny and pathetic. But anyway, what does it mean? That's a wonderful question, hippie chick. I wish I knew. Let's discuss. What do we think it means? I've been confused for the last several months, I think. Several years, actually. And there are the world's leaders. I know. What a wonderful obliterate. Wait. Sorry. Sometimes the chat does this real thing when it sort of jumps. Like, I think I have answered all the messages, then I scroll back to the same segment and it has more messages. Like 2 messages that I have answered and 2 more in between that I haven't seen. I don't know how it happens. YouTube chat doesn't do this, by the way. So, if there's anything important that you need to share with me, YouTube would be better. So many words without saying anything. That's the beauty of the job. You have to be able to do that. So you have to be able to just make circles around what could have been one sentence, I think. No, but like, for real, it's so annoying. They used to be better at this. At least when you get the actual Russians, they're typing most of the times correctly. And in Russian too, and sometimes it's funny. And sometimes and this is just pathetic. Slava Putin. No, this is not how you say it. Придурок. Okay. So yeah, we have some opinions. Wait, it means Trump isn't getting his mineral deal from Putin and he's ready to try to steal from Ukraine. But we already signed everything he wanted us to sign, right? So it's just, at first I was thinking, back when I was still hoping there was some sort of strategy behind all of this, because there was a time when I was thinking we live in the world of strategies and, foreign policy planning. I was thinking that, okay, this is him trying to balance out, the White House trying to balance out, obviously, everything that they have said about peace talks and the ceasefire, and trying to appease the Kremlin, of course, but also to kind of show our government their place. Because if you remember, this was like the leading motive of their communications with Zelensky, them trying to put him in his place very much. As we have seen in the infamous White House debacle that, I still see in my dreams from time to time, the nightmares, to be precise. Anyway, so I thought it was that. Then I thought, okay, no, he's obviously playing for Putin. It's probably because they need Russia. They need to break off the Russian-Chinese alliance if they're planning for, tackling China. They don't need Russia as a full-on vassal state of China. They're going to try and break this off. Then it was something else entirely. It was like, okay, they're probably trying to weaken NATO. Okay, no, wait, they're not weakening NATO. And it's this like continuous, okay, it looks like this, but then there's immediately 2 steps back and retraction of what was previously said. And I'm trying my best, but it's really hard. It was easier with Biden. Love to you too, how are you doing? After you said Margarita Simonyan speaks poor Russian, I see her videos completely different. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I know. Once you see, you cannot unsee. And thank you, Helena. Thank you so much. You cannot unsee this stuff. And they're trying so hard, and they're unfortunately failing miserably. It's kind of sad, honestly, especially considering how much she wants to be this great writer and the master of a spoken word, and it's just not there. It's either there or it's not there, and in case of Margarita Simonyan, it's not. Thank you, Big J. Thank you. China might have had something to do with it. They reiterate the support for Russia. Sanctions are coming. We'll see. I am not gonna comment anything until I see it actually happening. Hopefully it will. It's rumored that there's gonna be more sanctions. Hopefully there will be. It will make all the sense in the world, of course, but also, will we be surprised if it doesn't happen and instead he sanctions us? I won't be surprised at all. One of the most interesting, by the way, thing, we're not going to read, obviously, the CNN article, you can do this without me, but one of the most interesting things that it said is that basically, not only did Hegseth not inform the White House before he authorized this pause on the weapon shipments, Rubio apparently learned about it from the news. Which is, if that's the case, it's hilarious. It's extra hilarious. So yeah, that was just a wonderful, wonderful read. Anyway, I wish I could give you a more definitive, explanation and a read on the entire situation, but I think at this point in time we're all just confused. At the very best, we can hope that this is just an attempt to create fog of war and confuse everyone and confuse Russia and confuse China, but at the same time we've already been through this. Thank you. Also, you would hope that the people you're allied and partnered with perhaps would not be as confused as your enemies are, ideally, or is this too much to ask? We will find out. We will find out in real time, I'm afraid, because, yeah, we'll have to live through it. We didn't talk much about the frontline updates, but there was some Russian advancement. The trend remains the same. Let me see, where was that? This part just honestly terrifies me. I really hope they managed to get out. Was it here? Yeah, it was this area. I don't think if they have already put this on the map. No, okay, it looks much more gradual on the map than what the article was reporting on, but yeah, this is the advancement in Kostiantynivka. This is also one of the major towns in Donbass, one of their main goals, so this was just something that I wanted to point out. But aside from that, there were no major frontline advancement. I just, remembered I forgot to talk about this, sorry. Got distracted with all the silly politicians. And their nonsense, as it happens. You give Russia a year and a half before it collapses. Oh, I love this, the smooth toad. Are you perhaps, by any chance, a certified psychic? Honestly, I'm much more cautious with such predictions these days, because it doesn't really seem this way. I'm afraid there are always, whenever we think, okay, it's getting close to collapse, it's getting worse economically, it's getting worse in terms of military supplies, whatever, they find a way to improve their situation. This is what they did with North Korea. This is what they did with, right now they're talking about using military from Laos, which is, alright, sure, it's been in the news. And there's always, of course, the massive question mark of what's China gonna do. And if China, for realsies this time, decides to play this card and decides to use them as, according to what Rutte has been saying and what apparently they believe in NATO, if China decides to use Russia as this distraction for NATO, so basically using Russia to attack into the Baltics maybe, in order to get the NATO distracted, most specifically the US distracted, and proceed with Taiwan. I don't know. It's hard to say. Then China could potentially offer them something. They could offer them resources. They could offer them financial support, military support. We're now seeing the North Korean deployment, right? We're seeing North Korean deployment into Kursk. Where's Kursk? Let's see. Let's look at Kursk. It's here, right? So in this area close to Sumy region, Sumskaya Oblast, and we're seeing all of this happening. What could potentially, imagine if instead of the North Korean troops it were the Chinese troops. Why not? Imagine if Xi decides to deploy the Chinese troops all across Russia, and thus making the Russia, because one of the main goals of doing that was to help the Russians hold the front, yes, but also to free up the Russian troops that can now be sent, to other directions somewhere in Ukraine. So imagine if Xi does that, but in different parts of Russia. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm being very, very cautious with talks of collapse. Hi, cuckoo. We've already been through most of the important things, and we did a presentation on Crimea. So, but you don't need to see that. You already know everything. Okay, let me see. Thank you. A lot of very nice people who haven't seen me in a while. Personally, in Russia, I was going to ask some questions myself. I'm a reporter. Please be careful. Please be careful. If you do, remember it's not as chill as it may look. Oh, the Epstein list. Oh, it's just such a distraction. Of course they were not going to release anything. I cannot believe some people fell for it. You're asking me. I thought you were in Russia. No, I'm in Ukraine. I'm in Volynsk Oblast, but I'm originally from Crimea. I haven't been to Russia in a very long time, and I probably never will. Which I don't think I regret this, if we're being honest with each other. But yeah, there were times. Wait, are you on the Ukrainian side or Russia? I remember. Well, товарищи, masks off. I have been Vladimir Putin all along. And actually, I'm Medvedev. I'm a deranged alcoholic in a basement, calling Ursula von der Leyen a gynecologist and pretending it's an insult. No, I'm I don't know what to tell you, dear. I don't know. Oops. Medvedev, Russia. Do I look like him? And also, I think while we're on the Chinese note, there was a lot of China talk during this live stream. I think we should also, and we will also mention Ursula von der Leyen, we should talk about the fact that EU is now concerned regarding China, but basically the rhetoric is getting harsher. It's still not as harsh as it could be, but yeah, this is just, it reminds me of that meme of the EU being perpetually concerned when something happens, but thank you, Ruse, thank you, but still, it's promising, it's something, it could be a start. So the quote, oh, hi Em, thank you. The quote goes like this: if our partnership is to go forward, we need... That's Chewy. And my mom be shh. We need a genuine rebalancing, says European Commission President 2 weeks ahead of Beijing summit. This looks amazing to the backdrop of the laser hitting German aircraft and the Chinese spies. This is the Chinese spy in my household. This is Chewie, everybody. The beast. Okay, I think my mom is gonna kill her. Anyway, to the backdrop of the Chinese lasers targeting German aircrafts and Chinese spies caught in Kiev and all of these talks about, the possible Taiwan/Russia in the Baltics, whatever. Yeah, we have the... Well, it's better than nothing, so... She took aim at China's industrial overproduction, export restrictions, and its support for Russia's war against Ukraine. Interesting order. Our relations with China must be rooted in a clear-eyed assessment of the new reality. Don't you just love when politicians do this stuff, when they use all of this vocabulary? Rooted, clear-eyed assessment. Duh, of course. This is the new world. It has been for a while now. The remarks set the stage for a contentious summit later this month at which EU leaders will raise Beijing's no-limits partnership with Putin's Russia. We can say that China is de facto enabling Russia's war economy, obviously, and we cannot accept this. In fact, I'm afraid they're going to continue enabling. They're going to increase the enabling, most likely, if it's beneficial to them. Okay, sorry. As always, Oh, thank you, the smooth toad. I appreciate it. Did you study in Japan? No, I worked there. I worked there as a teacher. I was an English teacher. In one of those, as I would later learn, that some people are actually calling them English teaching sweatshops. I had no idea. I just thought it was a normal company. It was not. It was not a normal company at all. Good afternoon, Dee Dee. How's it going? The dogs are good, Joan. Thank you. You just heard Chewie having a meltdown as she does, and the rest of them are good. Mish just doesn't want to be seen on stream, unfortunately. It makes her nervous. I will try to post them more on Instagram. If you follow me on there, you will see all 5 of them hanging out in the upcoming days. I don't think China will deploy troops. That would cause the West to freak out and send troops. That's a good question. I don't think so. I think this could be done. They just tested it with North Korea, and it worked. They literally just pushed we always talk about how, the Russian red lines are constantly tested. They're doing this the other way around. There were North Korean troops fighting against the Ukrainian troops, and hi Tizai, thank you, and what, right? We just saw the red line testing situation in reverse. It was something that happened in reverse, and it's something that there was no actual response to. So they were saying, okay, what are they going to do? What is the response going to be? What's the reaction going to be? Well, thank you, Maddie. Thank you so much. Yay. And the roses and the fern. It's okay, don't worry. Don't worry about it. Russia is willing to near unalive the whole population. Yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's a very good observation, unfortunately. Oh, thank you so much. Again, the chat is being a bit weird, everybody, so don't get mad at me. If there is something urgent, you know what to do. You can always go to YouTube and say it on YouTube, because this chat is just, it's been all over the place today. I don't know if the TikTok is resetting something, as it has been doing. What are your plans if or when Ukraine becomes under full Russian control? No, I'm not going to wait until then. I will leave before, obviously. No, I'm not going through Russian occupation again. I've already been under Russian occupation once. That's enough. And that was the milder version, the ones that they're currently doing on the newly occupied territories. Oof. It's so much worse. It's so much worse. We had, the type of the torture was very limited, for instance, and it was like the type of thing that you would see in any Russian prison. But in the recently occupied territories, there are actual torture chambers, so no, thank you. Is Chewie still kind of mean to? She hates me. She hates me, and there's nothing I can do. I just get used to it. I'm okay with the fact that 4 others love me dearly and like me, and we spend a lot of time together. I just have to live with the fact that Chewie will forever kind of despise me. So it's just a part of it, I guess. Oh, everybody heard Chewie. That's good. Hehehe. Hello, Sammy. Hi. Today is a bit chill. We had a very intense night, so we're having a very chill stream talking about China a lot. I did a presentation on Crimea, thank you. So, yeah, just chilling. Just chilling. Nah, come on. The language is different. Also, I don't know, we've never really seen the Chinese troops in a fight, have we? So I don't really want to know what they're like, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, I think inevitably we will see them in a battle, but hopefully not too soon, please. Everyone is fine, everyone is coping. I think recently it's been sadder than before, because the trajectory is very depressing of where we're moving towards, but yeah, it's, same old. Thank you for asking. Alright, so tensions between EU and China. Who could have thought? The lasers hitting aircrafts and hard words hitting our media outlets. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. It will be interesting to observe this summit. But for now, it's just words. Wait, did we have anything? To those of you who were asking, this is the outlet that I use a lot. Just for the summaries, it's the best. To go to just see what's happening. They have the page in English. It's different than the one in Ukrainian. Immediately you can see that the highlight is different. But the article that was highlighted in the Ukrainian version, it's still here. It's about our commander-in-chief giving another interview. I think we've heard enough from him, no? Haven't we? Okay. Alright. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Maddie. Yay. Appreciate it. Thank you for the support. I really, really appreciate it. This was a very good one. Is there an English version of this? Let's see. It's about Sumy. Let's see. But there might not be. Some things they translate into English. No, this one they do not, but it's basically... Thank you, Em, and thank you, Maddie. Thank you, guys. This was a material about the situation in Sumy. We have discussed Sumy before. This is Sumy right here. There's currently Russian advancement towards the city. The FPV drones are now reaching the outskirts of the city, and so does the artillery. And so this was the report on what the life is like. Oh, thank you, Fermin. Hi. Life is like there and what's going on, and immediately you can see the first picture that you're seeing. This is the people aiming at the drones. You can immediately tell. These days, whenever you see stuff like this here in Ukraine, it's someone trying to get the drone. So yeah, this is a quote from someone who, by the sound of it, has family in Russia. They're saying, I'm talking to my relatives and I'm telling them we're getting shot at, they're killing us, and my relatives are responding with, it's your fault. Which is very common, I think, among many of us who have relatives in Russia. So, yeah, hunting the drones, and yeah, just a very good media outlet. So yeah, if you're interested in something like this, you can definitely check them out. They have a lot of interesting materials like this. How do you feel about North Korean troops? Not good, obviously. No stage of escalation, I think, is good. It just opened another door. I believe it opened the door for China to eventually send in their troops, so it was very depressing, obviously. They have proven themselves to be very good soldiers, and that was also a big surprise for everyone, because there were all these stereotypes, of course, about North Korea, you know. But there is a reason why, you know, they still have something going for them. It's not just all. I don't even know why do they have this reputation of being super weak. Okay, I guess. Well, now I think they still do. We even had people in the chat being like, North Korean troops. But no, they've proven themselves. They've proven themselves quite good. Did you talk about the Russian minister? Oh yeah, we had an entire segment last stream about the Schrodinger's minister and how he was both dead and alive at the same time, and how he was apparently already dead, but then he still somehow managed to summon the meeting. So yeah, if you're interested, please check out the last stream. It's somewhere over there. And yeah, it was it happens. Oops, sorry YouTube. I think I just yeah, it was loud. All right, I think yeah, it was a very chill one today. I didn't have much planned because my entire focus was on the situation regarding the Crimea deep dive and talking about that. So a lot of you liked it, which was really heartwarming. Let me just see if I have anything interesting bookmarked. That's the maps, the drones, we discussed that, Hexeth, the weird will they one day with the weapons and the potential sanctions, upcoming sanctions, hopefully it's gonna happen. That was a very interesting investigation with Orban. A mysterious trade of Russian oil to Europe links associates of Vladimir Putin and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's friends. Who could have thought? Who could have thought? Thank you, Maddie. The connections between Putin and Orban and oil. Oh, I would have never guessed. Of course they're connected. And of course it's through oil. These people speak in oil. Oh, this was a very interesting moment. So you all know how there is so much propaganda constantly talking about how all of us here are Nazis. And recently we had some cretin with a Nazi flag, with a swastika. Okay, that's not the Nazi flag. This is something that the Russian propaganda likes to use very much. So this is Ukrainian flag with Nazi insignia above it, posing somewhere in Kiev. Then he got arrested immediately. Turns out they're foreigners. It was him with his friend. Thank you. Immediately arrested, and yeah, they're foreigners, and they're currently facing up to 5 years in prison with confiscation of property. So that was fast. And just a reminder that actually stuff like this is illegal here. I know. If you listen to the Russian propaganda, you would think that we are the paradise for people like this. No, we're not, actually. It's illegal here, and you can get persecuted, and you can get even prison time for showing the Nazi symbols and the Soviet symbols as well. Of course, it could be much better reinforced, but when it happens, it's good. It's good that it, that it's not just that no one is closing their eyes on stuff like this. Trump, Ukrainian scandals. I'm going to talk about this in my Ukraine updates video, and this is also about Russia. Okay, I think we did most of the topics. And this is the article about the fact that Trump promises 10 interceptors for Patriots. If you count, you will notice that the battery itself has 12, so it's that's just what he does. It's Donaldino Trampolino. I think we're used to him by this point in time. Thank you, Calvin. Where will you go if you have to leave? Do you know? No, not really. I'll have to figure that out. Hopefully somewhere nice. Hi, Poppy. Hello. Somewhere nice and sunny. Someone pointed out you've never seen me in the sun. Well, maybe you will. No, honestly, I think it's just it's just a matter of time before I go somewhere, because it's been enough. I've always been planning on leaving eventually. It was my plan before the full-scale invasion. Then I sort of got stuck here. First I was hoping for the best, and then it was just inertia, I guess. But yeah, it will make a lot of sense for me to leave eventually, because it's just the way it was always meant to be. That was always my plan. So don't be surprised if you see me in Serbia. No, no, why Serbia? The Bahamas. No, I'll have to sell both kidneys for that. But we'll see. Somewhere. Who knows? Okay, did we do all of the questions? Please let me know if we did. I think we did. If we didn't, I'm gonna be very mad at myself. YouTube chat is chilling, so nothing urgent, I imagine. Is Zelensky any good for you? No, not a fan. I'm not a big fan of his. I mean, he's doing... I'm very grateful that he didn't flee in 2022, because we would have lost our statehood, and that would have been the end of us, most likely. So for that, yeah, he will forever be appreciated, I think, by everyone. That's for sure. Okay, everybody. Northern Finland it is! Yay, party in Northern Finland! Let's do it, everybody. Let's just do it. Let's get a gigantic sauna and drown our, I don't know, sadness in it. Drown our sadness in it. Yeah, the brain is shutting down. I think it's a sign. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I will be saying my farewells for now. Thank you for tolerating my Crimean deep dive. If you liked it, if you would like to vote for the topic for the next week, you can go to my Patreon and do that. It's for all the tiers. So yeah, please check it out. I will be posting the new list of topics in a couple of hours. To those of you who would like the notifications, again, we had mixed responses about YouTube, but a lot of people have been getting notifications on YouTube, so you can just go and follow me on there, and chances are you might get a notification on there. Or you can go also follow me on Instagram, because this is where I always post about like 30-40 minutes prior to going live. For now, I'm planning on going live on the 11th, so we'll see. Hopefully nothing changes. There is no blackout, or no crazy thing, no explosions, no nothing, no apocalypse. I will most likely be live, and I will see you then. Okay, thank you everybody for your support. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Cam Blake. Thank you, Nick. Finland is the warmest and sunniest. Thank you, Maddie and Suzanne and Direwolf and Pablos and Moo and Bob. I am in the village, but yes, our region got attacked today, but I'm fine. Mwah, mwah. Okay, bye-bye everybody, thank you. Hopla. Okay, we're done with YouTube, no, we're done with TikTok, and now we get to you as always. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Sorry for all the glitches, and sorry that I didn't have more articles. I will try to work on that. Thank you. Okay, that's a very relatable nickname. I'm a tired too. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for being here and there and everywhere. And Carolyn, thank you. Appreciate you. I will see you soon. Good night. And yay, Vindictus, we're gonna party Finland style. Yay. We will have people who will teach us how to do that. We have some Finnish people. Okay, mwah, 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 mwah. I'm leaving now. I'll see you soon. Take care, okay? Stay safe, stay sane, and I will catch you later. Erdogan jump scare. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.